I have been a member of the Affordable Housing Trust when it was once the Housing Partnership in its inception in 2007, and currently serve as chair. Members of the trust include Bob Burrell, former director of the Hudson Housing Authority and member of the Board of Health, Marcia Cairns, chair of the West Boylston Housing Authority, Mark Frieden, who is not here, represents the planning board. He also serves on the board, the select board. And Anna Mary Kramer is a real estate broker and also a resident. And Christopher Ruccio, select board representative, is not here. Christopher Berglund, sitting before me, retired officer of the Marlboro Savings Bank and chair of the Finance Committee, is a new appointed member of the Housing Trust, but unfortunately he has not taken his oath, so he could not deliberate, but he'll be participating in the discussion. I will entertain a motion to postpone the approval of the minutes of the November meeting. Marcia, second. Anna, seconded. All in favor? Aye. We have before us representatives of the Branded Management Realty Group 3, LLC. I memorized that. Worked very hard. Who seek the recommendation of the trust to the select board to enter into a local initiative program to create affordable housing projects in our community. Welcome, Mark Frieden. The charge to the trust is simple: to listen to the presentation of the applicants, consider if the project put forth aligns with the goals and objectives of the townwide master plan, the housing needs analysis of 2017, and the housing production plan of 2018. All three documents are on the website, and I will be asking the applicants to hold up their hand and honestly tell me whether they have read any of the documents. I promise I won't. The trust will then decide whether to recommend to the select board to enter into a LIP, that is a local initiative program, with this project. Have many of you been to the previous meeting? Will I be repeating myself in terms of what a LIP program is? Everyone seems to understand. Okay, I'll bypass that. The process for tonight: the applicant will describe their project. Following the presentation, trust members will question the applicant. Then the floor will be open to residents. We ask that you identify yourself and your address. I know that I can count on you to adhere to the rules of engagement and be civil in your remarks. Should comments become repetitive, I will move to limit discussion. Also, comments outside of the scope of this meeting, for example, sewers, traffic, and so forth, will not be considered. Please send those comments directly to the select board and/or town administrator. With that, may I introduce the representatives of the Branded Management Realty Group 3, LLC. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, on your way out, would you mind signing in on the sign-up sheet that Mr. Oh, I had this, I'll choke. Thank you.
Put it up. I'll introduce myself. My name is Robert Branca. I'm a principal of Branded Realty Group 3, LLC. Branded Management Group, Inc. is our management company that will manage this project, but it's the applicant.
Can everyone hear? Okay, good.
The proposed property owner will do that. We're a family business. We all live in the area. I live in Shrewsbury. My partners, also family members, live in Boylston and Shrewsbury, and we've operated a business in West Boylston and own property in West Boylston. We have operated that business for many years. We really like the community. We know a lot of its members. And we see this area as an area that's ripe for investment, and this, for us, is a large investment. The proposed project is 3 buildings. There's existing commercial there, which we will eventually replace. The first phase of the project would be a 64-unit apartment building. That's the building to the rear along Pierce Street. And that would contain 16 affordable units, and it would be a mixture of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom. 10% will be 3-bedroom units. The other 2 buildings, which we would like to build in phases, are 10,000 square foot commercial buildings. I assume you can take notice that the existing condition of the area is somewhat to be desired. It's relatively undeveloped. There's lots of things parked there, piled up there, and the commercial buildings tend to be aging and probably out of code. We believe this would be a vast improvement to the area. And we also believe that with the 3 items on your purview, which you listed up front, this project would meet all the requirements for those and achieve the goals set forth in those plans. Specifically, we believe this is in character with the area. It is a mixture of commercial and multifamily residential units already, and it is zoned for such. The town has designated the Route 12 area to be the place where properties like these should be developed and currently exist and are enjoyed by members of the community. We also like this site because it has frontage on 2 roads, so that the residents would not be flooding out onto Route 12 at peak times. They wouldn't need to do that. The project is also on a public transit route. It is close to 190 and close to many commercial services for the residents of this apartment building.
As Rob said, my name is Patrick Healy. I'm a civil engineer with Thompson Liston Associates. We've been affiliated and doing work for Branded Realty for a number of years on projects all over Central Mass, including the Dunkin' Donuts in West Boylston. So we've conducted a survey of the property. It's about, oh, okay, sorry. I can hear myself, so it's hard to, it's about a 5.5 acre site that we're looking at that would combine 3 properties along Route 12, 235 and 245 West Boylston Street, and property with an address on Pierce Street. I believe it's 27 Pierce Street, where the old VFW post was located. And so we're looking at a property that has over 400 feet of frontage on Route 12, 400 feet of frontage on Pierce Street. As Rob said, we're proposing 64 apartments plus over 20,000 square feet of commercial space. The property's laid out to provide a ratio of 1.5 to 1 parking spaces per unit, plus the commercial parking spaces. So those spaces would be available after hours for residents to park. There are some shared parking studies that have been conducted that encourage this type of shared parking, so you're not overbuilding the amount of parking that you need for the types of uses that you have. They have different peak times and so forth. We have prepared a preliminary landscaping plan showing how the property can be improved with trees and landscaped areas where stormwater would be managed, snow storage, and the like. It does meet many of the requirements of the local zoning bylaw. The building that's proposed is a 3-story building with multiple entrances on the front and rear of the building. So if you were to enter the building to enter your unit, you wouldn't have to go through a long hallway to get there. Sort of clustered entrances with entrances to those units. It's a modern style building. I think it fits in nice with the new wave of construction that's happening in the town. And it's not trying to look colonial or have, low-quality materials. It's all high-quality, modern, efficient materials. Here's a floor plan showing how the units would be distributed throughout the building. There are one bedroom, two bedroom, and three bedroom units that are in different colors. And at the bottom of the screen, you can see a breakdown of the number of each type of unit. So there's a total of 64. If I can read it this time, I had trouble at the last meeting. There are 35 one-bedroom units, 22 two-bedroom units, and 7 three-bedroom units. We've also studied the rents and the income for the metropolitan unit. As you know, 28% of the gross income can be allotted for housing, which includes rent and utilities. So looking at the price point for the different rents with utilities, for a family of 3 making 80% of AMI, the rent would be allowable rent would be in the range of $1,800, and without utilities, it's a little bit less, it's $1,670. And for a family of 5, that's a little higher. And these are all based on the numbers that are provided by the Mass Housing Partnership, where they publish a list each year of the income levels at 80% and 60%, and for different family sizes. So we're just showing you 2 of the possible combinations. For a family of 5, the rents would be a little bit higher because you would typically be looking at a 3-bedroom unit. The rent, allowable rent would range from $2,000 without utilities or $2,200 with. And then we looked at some comparable properties in the area to show you what they're charging rent. So this is on Plantation Street, right down the street in Worcester. The name of the property escapes me at the moment. It's Plantation Ridge, Audubon Plantation Ridge. Their advertising vacancies currently, one bedrooms range from $1,900 to $2,100, and 2 bedrooms from $28 to $35. So that's, in the same market generally. It's a little closer to UMass, so that may drive the rents up a little bit, but they do have vacancies at these rates.
One note I'd like to make is that we are probably going to change the mix of the units. We'll probably have more 2-bedrooms in that mix and less 1-bedrooms. Our experience has told us that the 2-bedrooms are, since the pandemic, are much more in demand than the 1-bedrooms. Either it's more space, a work-from-home space, an exercise space. And we've recently, a few years ago, completed a project similar in size, 72 units at the old El Morocco on Wall Street in Worcester. And that's where our most recent experience with this. And that's a project we worked with Mass Housing on. The application process, though, that's a market rate project in an enterprise zone, a qualified census tract. The idea with that program is to encourage people to build market rate housing in underprivileged areas to get a mix and to spur development, and it worked. The properties around us all got renovated, and that's spreading in that area. And that building has been full since inception. It stabilized immediately. And we believe that that experience will help us build the correct mix of units for people in this area that want it. We had originally proposed a 48-unit building, and we were encouraged by some townspeople to consider adding an affordability component. And this is early in the process for us. But as I said, having recently gone through a process with Mass Housing, though it was a different purpose to the program, the application is the exact same. It's called a one-stop. And we would probably work with a different sponsoring agency. Mass Housing has an aggressively unfriendly process. And Mass Development also is an approved sponsoring agency. And they are a tenant of ours in one of our office buildings in Worcester. And we're fairly close to them. We've discussed this project with them, and they are eager to participate. Again, we're early in the process. We haven't filled out an application. They are aware of the general contours of the project. They like that it's mixed use. They like the area. They're aware that West Boylston has a huge amount of state land in it that's not producing revenue, and it's not being used to produce housing, at least maybe under the new governor. She's made some statements that might change that, but that would be down the road a bit. So they are interested in seeing this project come to fruition in that area. Again, very early, we've only had a few conversations, no applications. We wanted to come to the town. We've already been before the select board, collected comments from the select members and the public about what they thought about the project and maybe some proposed changes, which we're going to incorporate.
Thank you. My question is, this is clearly not an elevated building, correct?
Some of the comments were at the select board hearing that there's a need for affordable housing for seniors who want to stay in the community, and we should consider at least putting an elevator in part of the building, although we believe we could accommodate ADA units and other units on the first floor.
On the first floor.
Yeah, we actually went out, we're speaking to elevator companies, we're trying to get a budget for it to see what that does to the numbers, in response to those comments.
Good.
So
Good.
if it's feasible, we'll do it. If it's not, we'll work with the town and.
Universal access is kind of important. I mean,
Yes.
it's one of the priorities. And Patrick, thank you for reading the, and you as well, reading the documents. It was clear that you know the priority of the town. I have more questions, but I would love the members of the trust to come forth.
If you might, what were the comments before the Board of Selectmen that the people had asked or wanted information on? Do you recall what those
Well,
were? It would save us a little time here.
Sure.
if you-
Elevators came up from two people. One person wanted to know where groceries and other services would be. Was there public transit available? And again, I've covered those in my comments. All of that's there. That's where it's supposed to be in the town, and that's where the town wants it to be. They asked if we had done a traffic study. We have not. We still have to go to zoning. That's their purview. And, we've been through that process in this town and surrounding communities, so it's not our first rodeo. So we would present a robust one, and Patrick would be presenting with us, and he's been here many times. So you would see what you would normally see. And I believe we answered most of the questions that people had satisfactorily. No one objected, at least not in our presence. There were others behind us that that was reserved for, apparently.
I do have a question about, in general, you combine retail and housing. Is the project one project, so the retail rents would help all the whole property be affordable?
Yes.
Oh, good, all right.
Yes.
And so if there was a bigger retail space, like if you, up in the corner, it looks like the donut shop is not part of the
It is
property?
not. That property is sort of for sale, but it's at an extremely elevated price, so I'm not sure it's really for sale.
Okay. And then I remember I asked you about the other corner.
Right.
I mean, if you did those things, you could increase your retail size.
Right. In that person, I think, is proposing a small office building, but would like to sell the property, but again, the price is a little high, but it's more reasonable than the closed donut shop price.
Okay.
So that there's a possibility we could do that. The reason we didn't make the proposed retail buildings bigger was we were afraid of parking, because we didn't want to overburden the site, have lots of cars with no place to go, and they end up on the street, which in the winter in Massachusetts is not the best.
No, I agree. I was just thinking if you had more property, it would make it.
We agree, we'd like to own both of those properties, but the closed donut shop is probably not going to happen. The other one, I feel better about it happening.
And then these are going to be walk-in shops, or are you thinking about, like, the Dunkin' Donuts across the street has been looking for another place? Would either of these
We actually just acquired that plaza last week. So we are planning to renovate that space and stay there and improve the drive-through,
Okay.
the parking. We have just started conversations with the existing tenants about changes we'd like to make to upgrade the building and the traffic flow. So it's unlikely we would relocate there. One of the other things that did come up, and you'll remember this, is there are existing local businesses there. And would we be interested in retaining them? And that's our plan, is we would love to have tenants before we put those buildings up. And depending on the lender we work with, we'd like to do the project phases, assuming they cooperate, would be to do the apartment building first, and we don't need to really do anything to the businesses that are there until that's complete. And then, so before, they wouldn't have to worry about, okay, you demolish my building, 3 years later, am I still gonna have a business? We would propose to build one building, move them in, if they're amenable to doing that, and then build the second building. So 3 phases to this project, ideally.
Yeah, that sounds good. I asked about the drive-through because I don't think that the housing works so much if there's a drive-through
Yeah,
cruising
no, we
through
do,
the place.
we're not proposing one,
Okay.
because we agree with you, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And again, if we had more space, maybe we would do it, but even then, peak times, people coming back and forth to work, 64 apartments is probably not.
Right.
It would be difficult to design in a way that we'd feel comfortable.
Excellent.
I got a question. My understanding was that you do not require relief from the ZBA to do the apartment building and the changes in the retail. Is that correct?
They can impose conditions, we can appeal the conditions, but we feel that there's enough room for compromise, and again, having experience in the town, we believe that any conditions they would have would be things that would be amenable to us. Again, we haven't been there yet, so I don't know, but,
I guess what I'm asking is, can you do this by right as opposed to going before the ZBA
with less units,
with less units?
not an affordable project, yes.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question. Can you tell me what the estimated square footage of the different 3 apartments would be? The 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
We actually are probably going to downsize some of them because we're going to eliminate many 1-bedrooms to add more 2-bedrooms, because that seems to be what the market wants. But they'll still be fairly generously sized. Our last project, we probably oversized and overbuilt. So we've learned from that. We'd probably use the same high-quality finishes because people stay when things don't break, and they look nice and they're durable, and they have storage. So large closets, things like that. The way we designed the last project is, my partners and I all lived in apartments when we were younger, and to be blunt, we're like, okay, what sucked about living in those apartments? How do we fix that? That was our design focus. And it worked because they've been full. We haven't had a vacancy since we opened.
Okay. So can you tell us what the estimated square footage for each would be?
I'm just trying to zoom in on the plan.
Yeah, I mean, we could tell you what the original design was when we were gonna do market rate units, but like I said, we went back to our architect to redesign the project, so I don't wanna say something that changes and think that I misled you.
Okay.
I'd rather have that done. But we generally know what renters want, and we won't build something that people won't wanna live in, because then they'll be empty.
Have there been many people with children that came?
Yes, small children, yeah.
Small children? And Patrick, if I heard you correctly, it's 80% of the AMI. We're all hoping for someone to come with a miracle amount of money to allow some of it to be 50% of the AMI, or at least 1 unit. I mean, for low and moderate people.
I don't think you've made that decision yet.
No, we haven't, but again, it's early in the process, and we're redesigning the building, so we're still looking at our construction budgets. And we're working on 3 different, maybe 4 projects in Worcester right now with affordable components. And if the inclusionary zoning ordinance that's proposed by the administration there passes, it gives the developer the flexibility to do 60 to 80. And if you do 60% AMI, you do less units. If you do 80%, you do have to do more units that are affordable. But the key thing there that kind of unlocks that process is they have an affordable housing trust fund with $15 million of ARPA money in it, and they will give you up to 25% of the total project cost, including land acquisition. And still, you're not, there's only been one completed application, which Wind Development, and that's what they do is build affordable housing. That's taken advantage of it. There are others, but I don't want to say that we could do it without something like that, without some sort of subsidy or tax stabilization agreement. But we'd certainly look at it, yes. Again, the numbers are going to dictate what it is, and then we're going to have a bank, so we're going to have financial covenants and cash flow covenants and things like that to meet. But we haven't ruled it out, we haven't ruled it in. But we are aware of the universe of this stuff and how it works, and we know what could and can't be possible, or we will when we get to the budget. We actually just could not proceed with 2 projects in Worcester because of the land acquisition cost was non-negotiable and the construction cost was extremely high. We see that beginning to abate on some commercial projects we're completing now. And hopefully by the time, assuming the town approves us and enters into a LIP with us, that construction costs will have come down, even though interest rates are going up. That's the other fly in the ointment.
If I could just go back to the unit sizes. So I was able to zoom in finally on some of the units where the architect had drawn in the square footage. So we have the 2-bedroom units are in the neighborhood of 1,000 square feet. The 3-bedroom is 1,300 to 1,400 square feet. And the 1-bedrooms would be a range from like 650 to 800 square feet.
If you kept all the units at 80% of the AMI, could you do any more affordable units?
Again, we're still working our numbers right now. Again, this is early in the
Okay,
process.
but I'm just asking whether that's a reasonable question.
Of course, it's a reasonable question, yes. And like I said, we're aware of what some of the HUD benchmarks are. And what I can say, that I know for sure, is that at 80% AMI, some of those rents are higher than what we're charging on that Wall Street project, the
Yeah.
old El Morocco project. So yes, if it were that project, built at that time, yes, we could do it. And our business model on all our multifamilies are to be 10 to 20% below fair market value, because it's stabilized, again, the project's stabilized right away. We have no vacancies, because a few units vacant for a few months more than eats up whatever gain you're going to get by getting $300 or $400 more a month. And we're keenly aware of the competing projects, and we like having good tenants that don't move in and out. And we found that's a recipe for success and peace of mind. So, though even some of the units might not be designated affordable, they probably would be falling in not much more expensive than an 80% AMI unit. And even the 80% AMI units might come in less than that, depending on what it costs us to build.
And the housing needs analysis, really identified the need for seniors and
We're
people on fixed income, and the rates are extraordinarily high, not affordable. So that's why we're raising that question.
understood, yeah.
I was just wondering, what would the utilities be? Is it going to be all electric or?
Well, there's gas available here, so we would probably use gas. We've discovered we have buildings that have electric heat pumps. The last project we did does. And if we get a bitterly cold winter, electric heat pumps don't keep. I mean, it'll keep the unit livable, But if you want it to be 74 degrees, you're going to be wearing a lot of sweaters.
Yeah, we have heat pumps at home, and I know everyone thinks they're the best thing since sliced bread. They're great in the summer, but
Yeah, they could cool very well, but if you get a sub-zero, windy day,
yeah,
you can get it to 68, so you'll be fine, but if you want it to be 72, it's probably not going to happen on days like that. That's, again, just our experience. The technology will change, but right now, what we've seen, we prefer gas. Again, still early in the process. And since gas is available.
I didn't know gas was available in West Boylston.
Oh, yeah, I have gas.
Oh,
Yeah.
see?
If you were to do that, would they not be air-conditioned units? If you were to have
No, they
gas?
would be air-conditioned as
Both.
well, yeah.
Okay, so you'd have the heat
Two
pump and
separate
gas.
systems, yeah.
Okay, all right.
They're not gonna be separate utilities, you're gonna have mechanical rooms, right? In other words, the utilities, the whole building will be heated with gas, as opposed to, some developers are now building heat units, boilers for each one of their units. I'm familiar with,
Yeah, again, we're early in the design phase, but we've done things both ways. Here, HUD and Mass Housing sets forth allowances for how much you would have to deduct from the rent if tenants are going to pay their own unit. So we'd obviously have to comply with that. And again, still costing it out, so we haven't made that decision yet. What we have done is we have included Wi-Fi and cable, because we make a deal with Charter or whoever the provider is, and they just wire the building, and it's just included in the rent. So that's something tenants really appreciate. They don't have to set up an account for that. They just move in, set up an email account in the last project, it was Spectrum, and then there's internet outages, they just deal with them. But then they flip it on, it's ready to go. That's something we would do here.
will you have a management office at that location?
Probably not. We have a management office in Worcester, and we can manage this property. We're close, and we all live near it. And we own the plaza across the street.
Okay.
Wise. I mean, you said you're in the process of putting together a lot of the numbers. So you haven't looked at the differential as to what you could get income-wise from 60% median versus 80% median on the affordable side?
We did it in another project we're looking at in Worcester.
Okay.
And again, but that involves getting $2 million from the city.
2 million, so that would be the differential for the same number of units if you were to ratchet back?
Well, again, I don't want to compare
Okay,
apples
don't
and
wanna compare,
oranges,
okay.
but.
Because that's something
Say something that turns out to
Right.
be incorrect.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that's something that would maybe of interest. How about finishes-wise? I know the El Morocco project you just completed, I haven't been in there, but is this something that would be on the level with that as far as finishes and all
Yeah,
that sort of stuff?
what we did is we did an engineered hardwood floors,
Mm-hmm.
so they're indestructible, so that people could have pets. A lot of people had pets during the pandemic,
Yep.
and they don't scratch. I actually have them in a renovation I just did in my house. My partners have them in their houses. It's a really high-end
It's a good
product.
yeah.
We did quartz countertops, stainless steel covered appliances. We did large pantries in that project. That project had underground parking, this one will not. And that project, the one thing we wish we had done is done larger windows. That's accounted for here, because the views on that property are pretty spectacular,
They
yeah.
are, yeah, no question. Last thing, handicapped accessibility. I know last week you talked about the metric being 5% required, which translates to about 3 or 4 units here. Is that something that you could, I mean, I think you're looking at, even if you don't do an elevator, 20 units on the first floor, would there be any
We,
ability to?
one thing we've discovered is that doing more accessible units tends to be popular because everything's a little wider. Showers, no tubs, but the shower's bigger.
Yep, yep.
And most people that live in apartments, unless you have a small child, you don't really need a tub. And those people prefer the larger showers. So we definitely would consider it. And as a matter of fact, the projects in Worcester we're looking at, the city would give you $25,000 to $50,000 more than the goal, the amount I just said,
Yep.
per unit in excess of what the code requires. So we were definitely planning on doing that in Worcester.
And I don't recall what you said last week. Have you done 40Bs before? I mean, or is
No,
this the
not a
first- this is the
40B,
first?
but
Okay,
we've
this is the
dealt
first
with, like I said, the application is the exact
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
Except the LIP process is different.
Yep.
But obviously, if you and the select board and the zoning board agree with us, we're gonna have partners to do it.
Code it,
So
right. Go forward.
we're not worried about that because we won't be fighting about it.
Okay, great. How many residential units do you manage now?
There's 72, about 100, a little over 100.
Oh, 100, and they're all local Worcester?
Yeah, they're all in
areas there?
Worcester, yeah.
Thank you.
And we have projects going into the South Coast area now.
I would invite the residents to ask their questions, if they have any. Lisa, are you gonna, do you have? I just wanted to make a few comments. Okay, sure.
Take off my mask. Having served on the planning board for 14 years, I want to say I'm impressed with this project because it is compatible with the West Boylston Housing Production Plan, which your board is in charge of. And it is putting this Chapter 40B housing in an area that's actually specified by the map in your housing production plan as an area which would be acceptable for this kind of housing. I also wanted to mention that unlike some of the other proposals, or one of the other proposals, I guess, it does comply with the town's existing zoning, which allows businesses, the business district, to have this kind of buildings in it. So I think that just shows it goes with what the town has indicated it wants in this area. I lastly just want to mention that when I was on the planning board, I do remember some of the different engineering firms we dealt with, and you got to know which ones were very reputable and which ones weren't. And I have to say Thompson and Liston was one of the ones that we always felt we could count on to do a good job. So thank you.
Thank you, Elisa.
Thank you, we appreciate that. Both of us do. We tried to be prepared.
Anybody?
Bill Flaherty, I'm at 107 Goodale Street. Just a general question. My knowledge of affordable housing was zero as of a week ago before the select board meeting, and so I'm trying to ramp up a little better understanding of this. But I just have three questions. One, how many affordable units do we have today? How many do we need? And how long do we get to that point? I don't know if we have those numbers, but I have no clue what they are.
Well, it depends on which census.
It depends, right, it depends on which census we use. We estimate, Jen, use 78.
Sure. So, Madam Chair, through you, Jennifer Warren, Diamond Town Administrator. So I don't have the number of units that we have presently. What I do know is off the 2010 census, we need 45 units. The 2010 census should be in effect through, we're hearing, probably February or March. According to the 2020 census, we need 78 units. In terms of how long we have to get there, what the 10% does is gives the ZBA what's called safe harbor. It's one of the 3 safe harbor provisions. The other would be that we have our general land area, and the third would be that we have a housing production plan and we're building a certain number of units a year. If you do not have status as a safe harbor, any of those, then even if you just need 1 unit, or you need 1 acre, any developer can come to the town, propose a 40B, and the ZBA cannot say as of right, no, thank you. With Safe Harbor, then the ZBA has, and so not the Affordable Housing Trust, not the Select Board when considering a LIP, it's the ZBA. The ZBA can say, if you are in a Safe Harbor, well, we'll consider your project, but only if you do these things that the town really wants you to do. So it's a somewhat complicated answer. I hope that that answers your question.
So we have 227, 226 units.
So can you bump up your numbers? To get us to 78, we need,
Can we build more than 64 units?
why, in this area?
Well, 64 is above the allowed amount, right? Correct? 48 was the maximum.
Based upon the park.
Parking, right. The parking is
It's
what's
the
the
parking.
limitation, yeah. In building another level on this building, I think we'd be overburdening the site without more land.
Okay, that,
And it just wouldn't be fair to the people that live in the building
yeah.
or the commercial tenants, because,
But we're inching towards the safe harbor, so that's sort of was the background of my questions.
well, I
Well,
believe
can-
your SHI can include all of the units, even though only 16 are affordable. So,
Oh, because it's
for
rental.
rentals, right?
That's right.
So,
I knew that.
So it's already giving you a big chunk of that 78.
Yeah.
So.
Are there any more questions? Well, we have to thank you for coming on this busy, busy time of year,
It's the shortest day of the year, too.
and the shortest day of the year. Sometimes it feels like the longest. And we're really very grateful for coming forth with this project.
Yeah, and we appreciate your time, and one thing I'd like to say is we've done business in this community a long time, we really like it. My teenagers work at that Dunkin' on at West Boylston Street, and been to the driving school at our friend Andy Sarabian's Plaza, and one's there right now.
Is that right? Oh,
Yeah, so we like the town, and we'd love to make this investment here. Sure.
Is, do you have copies of the plans that
Yeah.
we could have?
Yes, sure.
submitted electronically to Jen, and then Jen will disperse it? How's
Right,
that?
and as I said, those floor plans will be changing. And as we update them, we'll get that to the administrator's office.
Well, see, we've created this grid from the strategies and goals of the 3 documents I mentioned, and that's upon which we're going to make our recommendation as to whether we would recommend all 1 or 2 of the proposals before us to the select board for a LIP. And so we're trying to be very systematic about this, and I can give you a copy of the grid if you want it, but I think,
I believe it's online.
pardon me?
I believe it's online.
Is the grid online? No,
No.
it's just internal, but you don't really need
Oh,
it.
that's Worcester's scoring system, sorry.
So these are the metrics they're using. to
Um,
make them.
Right.
I think we,
I just have one.
Sure,
Could you build some 2-bedroom handicapped units?
of course, yeah.
Are you planning on doing that?
We
A
would
lot of
probably-
developers overlook that.
We would probably do a mix between the 1, 2, and 3, so that we would have at least one of each type available,
Yeah, great.
because we think that what the market requires.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I forgot to mention is that, I did say this use is pervasive, but the mixed use with commercial in the front and multifamily residential in the back is right nearby. It's, already exists in town, so it would be completely in character.
I'll add on to Elise's talk about the planning board, and the planning board has been considering a mixed-use sort of village zoning idea. So this is right up that alley. So I mean,
Thank you.
We're going the right direction.
so much.
Well, happy holidays. Thank you all.
Stay well.
You too.
Thank you so much. Well, gentlemen and ladies, we put on the agenda possible deliberation tonight. And would you like to begin deliberating, or any opinions or what have you?
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't there going to be a fourth
No,
one
it's
coming
not.
forward? It's not coming forward? Okay. Then I,
We only have 3 columns.
yeah,
Yeah, so
I know,
so-
but it's,
so-
I heard there might be a
So
fourth
help
one.
me.
We can.
How do we go about this? Who's systematic? It's not my core skill.
I haven't started the score because I want to
Hear
hear this
all of them.
again. So I think I might need a little more time to
Okay,
make my decisions, because I haven't just heard this today, not for the first time, I was at the select board meeting, but I would like a little time to go over this.
would you, then should we, I conferred with the town administrator, it could wait until January 6th. And we will have our decision at that point, if that's okay with you. It is, after all, holidays. A big snowstorm or rainstorm might be coming, and so, all right, is our plan to meet on, is it January 9th? What's that Monday? I think it's the 9th rather than the 6th.
The 6th is Friday.
Yeah, so it's the 9th, Monday, the 9th. Is that agreeable with everyone? January 9th, it's a Monday.
Yeah, I would have to be on a Zoom. I'll be
She'd
in
have to be-
Florida.
Oh.
I leave on the 6th.
Okay, how about, can she submit her, is it legal for her to submit her, it's, hybrid meetings don't work well.
It's my opinion that although she could submit her comments or her scoring
Ahead of time.
sheets ahead of time, it wouldn't count or constitute a vote. So, perhaps we can work to get some assistance to allow this to be a hybrid meeting. A hybrid meeting can't work in this space. So if we were going to do a hybrid, it would have to be in one of the 2 meeting rooms at the town hall. And then folks, I would anticipate that at that meeting, you are going to have a lot of folks who are interested in the community, who are going to want to listen. But perhaps those folks would also just want to hear the deliberations, because I don't know, it's, the pleasure of the chair, what you want to do. You're probably not going to be taking comments again at that point. It would be more passive for the folks. So perhaps they might be interested in wanting to be in the comfort of their own homes, watching it on Zoom as well. But we can work with you on the mechanics of making a hybrid work so that everybody is able to vote from the trust.
What is your feeling? That if you can make the hybrid work, Jen, because it was awful. A hybrid where some people we could hear, I forget the Board of Selectmen that I tuned into, and it was hard to hear everyone.
I think they will resolve those issues.
Okay, good. All right. So would you like to do a hybrid on January 9th? Because I think it's easier if we deliberate together, masked or
And I could-
unmasked.
Yeah, then I can participate.
Okay, wonderful.
So January 9th?
January 9th at 6.
Is there any option besides January 9th?
And again, our only thing is whether to recommend to the select board to enter into a LIP.
Do we recommend only one project? or-
No, you can,
We can recommend all 3.
And
Jen will answer.
Mr. Haley says only one.
You can recommend 0, you can recommend 1, you can recommend 2, or you can recommend 3.
My anniversary is January 9th.
Pardon me? Your
My
anniversary?
anniversary.
Well, Becky can come.
She can come to the meeting? All right, then I'm on. So it's my last anniversary, is what you're saying.
Are you coming? It's a Monday, you wouldn't be
Yeah,
going
no, we won't
anywhere.
be going, but
Restaurants
yeah.
aren't open, come on.
What time will it be, 6?
6 o'clock, she said.
There's no restaurants open Monday anyway.
Right. Oh, that's good. I didn't think of that.
All right, does that sound good to everyone?
January's filling up fast.
Once again,
Yeah,
it's
coming up
wonderful to
fast.
see so many interested people. The town administrator is always looking for volunteers to step forward and replace the gray hairs so that, that life can go on. And so we need you, especially I can see very young faces back there, and to come forward. I joined the planning board knowing zilch. Remember, Patrick? And I witnessed it at every meeting. But Vinnie Vignali said they needed me to run, to fill in for someone who was leaving. I said, I don't know about this. Oh, yeah, we'll teach you. Elisa was on the phone teaching me for the interview. And every meeting, I would look at the plans. Yeah, you can see the drainage. Yeah, it's going down. But you learn, you sort of muddle along and you learn, and it's great fun. Not so much now, but it's been really, really fun. So talk to your friends and neighbors and get away from the soccer fields and come forward and join a board or commission. The Conservation Commission needs you. And sadly, we only get activated when something's happening that affects us.
Housing Authority needs help too. We need-
Housing Authority needs people.
Finance committee?
And, you're doing good. I don't mean to preach, but I'm a preacher kind of person. So, thank you for coming out. We'll deliberate as best we can. And as I said, this is the score sheet we're using, and which is out of these documents. And we'll go on from there. So with,
Pat, is there going to be, can we talk about, are we going to use one for our first project, two for the second project, on each one of the criteria? Is that the
I'm
way
just going to do the numbers based on the evaluation and add it up.
Okay, I got you.
And if there's 0, 0, 0, 0,
Yeah, okay.
that doesn't get you very far.
Yeah.
And then I think during our deliberation, we could have a minimum, right? Is that,
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And Anna Mary, second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.